everyone, it's Allison Alyssa Carty of AllisonAlyssa.com. It's February and we recently had Valentine's Day, so I was trying to think of how I could incorporate some sort of Valentine's type message into my video this week. And I came up with an idea. So I'm a big fan of the work of John Gottman. He's a marriage researcher who has been looking at couples in long-term relationships for decades. And he has a really interesting body of research, including findings from his Love Lab, where he brings couples in and just observes them to try to figure out what are predictors of couples who stay together and couples who don't stay together. So there are a lot of really interesting findings from his work. One book that I've recently been looking at of his is called 7 Principles for Making Your Marriage Work. And I know not everybody listening to this is in a marriage, but I still think the relationship concepts are pretty interesting. And one of the concepts is the idea of the way you start a conversation when you're going to be dealing with a conflict. So just to illustrate this, I once had a professor in college who had us kind of partner up, and he had one person hold up their hand, and then he had the other person hold up their hand too, and he told the first person to push. And immediately when the first person pushed, the second person would push right back and the hands would kind of stay still. And after we had done that for a little bit, he said, I didn't tell the second person to push back. So the situation could have just as easily gone like this, and the one person's hand could have fallen away. But generally, when somebody comes at us in a harsh way, or in a critical way, in a judgmental way, kind of a push, our tendency is to push back. So in the context of trying to resolve a problem, if you're approaching somebody, whether in a relationship or at work or even in a negotiation, and you come at them in a harsh way with contempt or judgment, criticism or blame, then that's going to impact the whole conversation. In fact, in the book I mentioned, John Gottman writes that softening the startup is crucial to resolving conflicts because my research finds discussions invariably end on the same note they begin. That's why 96% of the time I can predict the fate of a conflict discussion in the first 3 minutes. So I thought this was just an interesting idea and something Valentine's-y related that you can also apply to your career or other areas of your life. When you're having a conflict with someone, pay attention to how you're starting the conversation and try to do so in a more diplomatic or gentle way. Gottman again writes, the startup just needs to be devoid of criticism and contempt. So as long as you state the issue of what you want to talk about, and you can do so from a calmer place, then that initiation of the conversation is going to help the conflict to get resolved more easily. So I hope that helps you, and I hope you guys are having a good February.